Alright friends, welcome back to another video here at Savior of the Second. We're talking about budget firearms lately. And that really intrigued me to pick up one of the guns I've had on my list for a while, and I've been carrying it every day for a little bit now. And that is this, the RUGER EC9s, which many people like to compare to the LC9s, which it obviously is very comparable. That is a budget firearm that I would trust. So when you look at some of the other budget firearms in this category, there are not many that I would trust as much as a Ruger. And it does fall somewhere between a micro and a full size, wherever you want to consider it. But my interest in the EC9s lies in its comparison to the LCP. And if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that the LCP is essentially my favorite handgun out of everything, really. And my other favorite is my Glock 43X. But I have a few LCPs now at this point, and I can tell you that the LCP in this configuration, the LCP1, where we would call it a custom or a special or a Davidson custom with the anodized skeletonized trigger, these are my favorite handguns. By far, hands down, right? I love these. I've been carrying them, shooting them for a long time. There's just something about them that I hold near and dear to my heart. Now then, if I would compare that to what I would go to as my essential firearm, which means this is the firearm that I'm going to take most places where I really need a firearm. That's going to be the Glock 43X. So I have a little bit larger capacity. So I have a little bit more grip to make sure that if I'm in a dire situation, I'm not going to lose my grip with sweaty hands or over nerves or something like that. This is something that I can trust to hold, to acquire, to reacquire. And then somewhere in between those, we would find the Ruger LC9 or EC9s. And this is definitely a handgun that is not for everybody. This is not a firearm for everybody. Who is this for? And when do I carry it? And when would you want to carry it? That's what this video is about. Let's talk about that a little bit. So a lot of people ask what the difference is between an LC9S and an EC9S. And it basically just comes down to three things: the trigger, the sights, and the finish. I'm not necessarily worried about any of those. After having the EC9 for a little bit now, and after firing it a little bit, I really have not shot it that much, but after putting a few rounds through it, after handling it, after carrying it, I am not that concerned about those three things, where the EC9S is sufficient for me. And I really didn't pick it up for a need. I picked it up for a comparison and for this channel, because I wanted to be able to tell the viewers about a budget firearm, specifically in 9mm, that I felt was trustworthy. Now, I will tell you right now, I've never shot a high point. I have shot multiple Tauruses. I do feel that Taurus offers something. But Ruger, I think, has hit a very specific niche in this firearm. It's a budget 9mm, 7+1 that you cannot extend to 9 with a mag extension or with the 9 mag. And I do feel that the trigger is good enough, the sights are good enough, the finish is good enough on the EC9S, where I would pick this over the LC9S because it's just so cheap. So if you are looking for a budget firearm, this is a good option. Now, the sights. The sights are built in to the slide on the EC9S, whereas the LC9 has them removable, so you can take them out and exchange them. The sights are not only built in, but there are no dots. Now, people say that they've had issues with their EC9S slide rusting. I have not had this long enough. I have not carried it long enough. I have gotten it sweaty. I do typically carry in a belly holster since I've found them, because I'm almost always in sweats. I'm a coach, I'm a bodybuilding coach. So I am getting sweaty all the time. Not to mention the fact that I do sweat profusely because my metabolism is so high. So this has not worn down enough to where the finish would actually get rusty because there is no stainless steel exposed. But I've known people with EC9Ss that have not had any rust issues, but I've also known people who have. So I guess over time, as I carry this more, as I use it more and wear down the finish, we'll see. As I sweat more on this, we'll see. But upon inspection, the finish does look fairly decent to me. Now, last is the trigger. Is this trigger garbage? No. Is it phenomenal? No. It's good. This is a good trigger. I don't mind the trigger. I actually don't mind the trigger to the point where I don't feel a need to swap it out. When I purchased my first LCP, it was the LCP-1. It was the first one that just came out. I had bought it nearly, I believe, the week that they were released. Then almost immediately I took it to the range and I was extremely disappointed in the trigger. I just couldn't stand the trigger. Then I kept my eye out, and when this gun was released, this exact one was what I picked up. Everybody was calling this the LCP Special. With the red skeletonized anodized trigger, it does have a white dot on the front sight. That does help for acquiring and reacquiring, but it's really nothing to write home about. But you do have at least upgraded sights. So I got this firearm and I was very pleased with it because the trigger is actually quite good for a micro. I really actually like that trigger for what the gun is. So the EC9S trigger is much better than the LCP-1. Not quite as performance oriented as this LCP Special here, but it is a good trigger. It's a decent trigger. It's certainly not a trigger I would even compare to my Glock 43X. I really, really, really like this trigger. But I will also mention that there is a mag disconnect on the EC9S. I don't believe there is on the LC9. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, write it down in the comment section. But if you drop your mag, for some reason accidentally you hit your mag release under stress or pressure, and you have a round in the chamber, you cannot fire that round because of the mag disconnect. So you hit that mag release, you're stressed, you're anxious, you accidentally hit that mag release, you have a round in the chamber, you cannot fire it because there's a mag disconnect. And really the last thing to mention is there is a manual safety. This is the only handgun that I have kept and held on to, and I will keep this one with a manual safety because anything I'm going to carry, I don't want a manual safety. I have a TBI, I have a brain injury, and so less steps for me is better. And even if I train to try to remember a safety, off, on, whatever, mechanically, I don't want that step to be in my process. So it has a safety. But the nice thing about this safety on the EC9S, it is quite stiff. So it's not something that you can essentially hit accidentally. That safety, you really have to apply pressure. So there is a lot of resistance. So you can leave that safety off and not have to worry about, am I going to accidentally hit that safety? So I don't mind holding on to that gun with a safety. Now, if we compare the EC9S to the LCP, there's a significant difference. The EC9S is much larger than the LCP, as it should be, right? As it's supposed to be, as it's designed to be. Much larger. But then when we compare the EC9S to the Glock 43X, which you'd say to yourself, why would I carry an EC9 if I could carry a Glock 43X with a few more rounds, if they're essentially the same size? And they are quite comparable in size. The slides are fairly similar. It is a little thinner, not much, This is with an extended mag. But if we put a flush mount mag in the 43, well, let me decipher that properly. In the 43X, if we put a flush mount mag in the 43X, there's not that much of a difference. It's about a ½ inch down here at the bottom. And so that's not much different. Plus on the 43X, we've got great sights and really the best grip out there in my opinion. For my hand, the 43X offers the best grip out of everything. Everything and anything that is on the market right now, this grip is absolutely hands down my favorite. Why would you buy the EC9s if it compares to a Glock 43X? Because my Glock 43X in this configuration with the Hive accessories is about $640, $650. Whereas the EC9s, you can buy used for under $200. And I got mine well under $200 from my local firearms dealer because they gave me a great deal. But you can buy that gun new for about $260 because it really truly is a good, solid, reliable, budget-friendly gun. And that is why you would then go with the Ruger EC9s over a Glock 43X. It's that simple. And if you've caught this video here, you'll see that I don't own any Smith & Wesson Shields. I have owned most of them. I have owned multiple performance centers, and I don't own any now, and I have not kept any. But I will be keeping the EC9s because the grip. I prefer the Ruger grip over the Smith & Wesson Shield grip. That ovular Smith & Wesson grip is just very awkward to me to hold. I'm used to the way that the LCP grip is shaped, and the EC9s is just a larger version of this. And I really do actually like this. And just with the standard mag that comes on the LCP, I don't mind wrapping my pinky underneath, and I can shoot this pretty comfortably. But again, if you've been watching these videos, you know I put Hive extensions on all my LCPs. Except for this one because it's meant to be just the smallest thing that I own. So that is my comparison of the EC9s, where it falls, who it's for, why you would want it, and what it's good for. I feel like it is a very good option for a new shooter. I feel like it's a good option for a young shooter. I feel like it's a good option for a budget-oriented shooter. I feel like there's a lot that the EC9s offers, and I believe that Ruger is a very, very reliable firearm company. So please subscribe to the channel, like the videos if you've liked it, which I hope you have. Check out our other videos here, and stay tuned because Savior of the Second t-shirts and hoodies are on their way. So catch you next video, guys.